This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Brittany is away this week. The federal government is facing criticism over the appointment of Manitoba's newest senator. The Prime Minister's office announced on Saturday that broadcaster Charles Adler has joined the Senate. Well, now that decision is under scrutiny both within the government and outside of it. The CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us live in the newsroom now. So Bartley, where is this criticism coming from?
The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs wants Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Governor General Mary Simon to rescind broadcaster Charles Adler's appointment to the Canadian Senate. This is over comments Adler made on air 25 years ago when he was the host of Adler Online on CJOB. The AMC says Adler made vulgar and racist comments in 1999. The AMC says it complained to the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council over Adler's description of Indigenous leaders as boneheads and intellectually moribund. The council dismissed the complaint. The council said its decision might have been different if Adler made those comments about ordinary Indigenous people. Still, the AMC says those comments remain hurtful. In a statement, the AMC says it is obvious that Canada and the Prime Minister have turned a blind eye to these offensive views when making this appointment to the Senate.
So who else is criticizing this appointment?
The lone Manitoba member of Justin Trudeau's cabinet doesn't like it. Hours before the AMC called for the cancellation of Adler's appointment, St. Boniface St. Vital Liberal MP Dan Vandal, he's a Minister of Northern Affairs, issued a short statement of his own. He said, "There are many eminently qualified Manitobans who are better suited to represent our province than Charles Adler." Now, Adler, who spent decades in talk radio, said he has no quarrel with Dan Vandal.
Dan Vandal, lifelong Liberal, is not happy that Conservative commentator and writer Charles Adler is going into the Senate. He thinks that they could have made a much better choice, and I'm positive, even though I don't want to pretend that I can read the mind of the cabinet minister, I'm positive that Mr. Vandal means that a better choice would have been a Liberal choice.
The Conservative Party criticized Adler's appointment on Saturday. The Conservatives called him one of Trudeau's biggest cheerleaders and most vicious anti-Conservative attack dogs in the media. Back to you, Riley.
Thanks, Bartley. CBC's Bartley Kivas in the newsroom for us tonight. Business owners in Winnipeg's Pacific industrial neighbourhood say vandalism and theft are rampant. One business was broken into 4 times in a span of 2 months. The owner says he no longer feels safe having employees come to work. Michaela De Los Santos has the story.
This is what greeted Jesse McDowell when he came into work today. Smashed windows, a printer destroyed, and trash left scattered. He owns Align Sewer and Water. Their office is on a side street near Notre Dame in McPhillips.
You know, it's tough. We're all working out of our vehicles or from our homes now. We don't have a gathering spot or anything. And, you know, I'm not comfortable having employees in here even during the day.
It's the construction business's 4th break-in in the last 2 months. And it wasn't just office equipment stolen. He thinks there's been about $100,000 in damages.
Dad's art studio, grandmother's electric wheelchair, popcorn maker in the lounge, alcohol, everything was completely cleaned out.
Tyler Whitlaw is the president of a neighboring business. It's a contract company called On Time. Some of his business vehicles had tires slashed and windows broken.
The damages to my assets would be tens and tens of thousands of dollars, and they've stolen hundreds of dollars, right? So the offset's huge. Like MPI claims would be thousands of dollars for repairs. That hood there will be $2,000 that they did last night, and they got nothing.
The Manitoba government just expanded its security rebate funding program. It reimburses households and businesses $300 for purchasing home security equipment. Break-ins have been a problem all over the city. Back in July, Sage Creek residents had their garages broken into. McDowell and Whitlaw have ideas on what can be done.
Short term, it would be nice to see more police presence on the weekends or the evenings, and especially around here because it's a very high foot traffic area, but very low vehicle traffic out of business hours.
I think we need to increase penalties for minor offenses where people are deterred from doing things where right now they smash a window, walk down, smash another window, and then another and another.
Whitlaw says if things don't change, inner city businesses will be forced to move, and he thinks that will hurt the whole area. Michaela De Los Santos, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Residents in the western Manitoba community of McCreary are in shock after 4 people were found dead in the community last Friday. Mounties are investigating the deaths of a 66-year-old woman and 2 men aged 65 and 35 as a triple homicide. A 41-year-old man was found dead from a self-inflicted injury. CBC spoke with a resident who has lived in the McCreary area his whole life. He says people still have a lot of questions and they hope investigators can get to the bottom of what happened.
Well, it shakes you up, but I know they got to do their job, and hopefully they can get it to make sense what went on, but I don't know if you ever will. You'll never know for sure, will you?
Police say they initially were called to check on the well-being of a 37-year-old woman who was later found safe. About a dozen postal workers protested this morning outside of a Canada Post sorting facility where they held a mock funeral.
I mourn the workers that Canada Post deems disposable.
The protest comes as a new sorting system was rolled out today at the downtown Postal facility. Postal workers say the system eliminates jobs and creates more work for letter carriers. Sean Tugby heads the Winnipeg chapter of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. He says route sizes will increase from 23,000 steps per day to 37,000. And that the new system also forces letter carriers to start work later. That means working in peak heat in the summer and darkness in the winter.
We're having a mock funeral for the lost jobs, for the lost opportunities, for the lost work-life balance, for the lost health and safety provisions, working people later and darker and longer. We're harming and hurting people, and we just want that to stop.
The union says it hopes the protest will convince Canada Post to address the letter carriers' concerns and negotiate a new contract with them by this fall. The Winnipeg Humane Society says it is ready to start adopting out some of the dogs from the latest large seizure by the province. This little guy here is one of 137 small breed dogs that were seized by animal welfare officials from a home north of Winnipeg on August 1st. The Humane Society says many of these dogs needed medical care. The pups will be spayed and neutered, and adoptions will be done on a first-come, first-served basis. The Humane Society asks people interested in adopting a dog to come to their facility on Hearst Way. Thousands of people forced to flee their homes in Bunnabonaby, Cree Nation last week are eager to return home. About 2,500 people were moved to Winnipeg and Brandon. Some ended up taking temporary refuge at the University of Winnipeg's Recplex. About 150 people were still waiting to be moved into hotels. CBC spoke with some of them yesterday.
People are very tired and we can't sleep at night, and you're worried about your community back home. Hopefully that fire won't get there. Yeah, we'll be sleeping there, and kids, babies, children, yeah.
Seems maybe kind of hectic in there.
Yeah, it is. It is noisy.
We can't sleep at night, and it's been too loud in there. It's side by side. Oh, we're very tired and frustrated. Like, we want to go back home already. We're worried about our community, the people out here too, and they're kind of worried. And we need accommodations because it's been hectic for the past 2 days. They told us that they're working on accommodations for everybody.
I'm very worried about my community. I hope the fire doesn't reach there. I hope the fire doesn't reach there.
Well, that leads us to a look at weather, and I'm going to start with the wildfire situation in Manitoba. In particular, that fire that is burning near Bunnabonaby, Cree Nation. You can see on the map here, southeast of Thompson. You can see the perimeter of that fire outlined in red, currently at about 11,500 hectares, still listed as out of control. The cause of that fire, natural causes, in other words, lightning causing that fire. And we'll talk about why the winds could make things a little bit worse in that part of the province a little bit later. But first, looking at fire danger, as you can see, most of southern Manitoba in that low range because we've seen some precipitation, but parts of northern and central Manitoba into that moderate and high fire risk. So it goes to show that you have to be fire safe as even we head into the later part of summer here. Here's a picture from the CBC's Karen Paul. It's a great picture that she took of the sunrise on the Saskatchewan River. Through that fog, you can see the bridge connecting the Pas with Opaskwayak Cree Nation. A great shot from Karen there. Absolutely love that photo of that sunrise. Very eerie and ominous. Mix of sun and clouds across southern Manitoba today. We have seen a little bit of clouds start to build into western Manitoba. This ahead of a trough of low pressure that will bring some precipitation to parts of western and into sort of north central Manitoba as we head into the rest of the week here. So looking at your futurecast here, we start tomorrow under a mix of sun and cloud, but you can see sort of in the Pas there around Grand Rapids, the risk that we could see some rain, maybe some rumbles of thunder, especially as we head into the later part of Wednesday in particular, the better chance through central Manitoba there of some shower activity. And we could see sort of the backside of that as we get into early Thursday morning here in the south. So I talked about the winds earlier and how that could hamper the firefight. In particular, south and southeast winds here in Manitoba, that will flush some of that haze and some of that smoke out of southern Manitoba, but has the potential to blow that fire burning near Bunnabonabe Cree Nation through tomorrow and into Wednesday closer to the community. So we'll be keeping an eye on that in particular. Winds pick up as we head into Wednesday, gusts up to 40 or 50 through the midweek here in Manitoba. Looking at your forecast for tomorrow across Manitoba, temperatures approaching 30 in southern Manitoba, 28 in Swan River, 29 in Winnipeg and Dauphin. And a look at the next few days here. South winds on Wednesday, could see some showers on Thursday, and 28 degrees on Friday. Your 7-day forecast is coming up. Well, where are all the kids, and why aren't they playing outside like they used to? That is the question CBC Manitoba's urban living contributor Ben Farr dove into for his latest column. In this second edition of My Hometown, Ben took a deep dive into the research to find out why fewer kids are getting fresh air play compared to previous generations. And a surprise, it is not just about screen time.
Summer. The most beautiful time of the year. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the schools are out, and the kids are playing. Wait, where are the kids?
Back when I was a kid, we would play outside all day, until the streetlights came on at night.
But now, the majority of kids are spending less than 1 hour playing outside every day.
Why is that? I want to learn more so the next generation of city kids don't miss out. If you ask parents across Canada why their kids aren't playing outside, some will say that it has to do with safety.
There are a lot of threats in our cities for unsupervised kids. From injuries to high-speed traffic to bullying and even the risk of crime and violence. These are all big concerns. And it shows up in the data. In a recent poll, 56% of Manitoba adults surveyed said they feel less safe now than they did before. With all that fear, parents might be uncomfortable sending their kids out to play alone.
But is our community actually so dangerous that kids should just stay home? Well, maybe not.
There are some dangers, but they shouldn't keep kids from getting active altogether. Here in Canada, the chance that a kid becomes the victim of a violent crime is less than 1%. And across Canada, crime has continued to decrease overall since the 90s.
So then, what about injuries?
Every year, up to 30,000 kids are treated for injuries in hospital, and 3/4 of those injuries happen on playgrounds.
At first glance, that stat is concerning.
But the reality is, the vast majority of those injuries are minor scrapes and bruises that heal quickly.
So is the answer simple? Should we stop worrying about the dangers and just send our kids out to play?
Well, the kids might not be so easy to convince.
When I was a kid, we didn't have cell phones. If I wanted to see friends, I had to go outside.
But that's just not the case anymore. While time outside has decreased, kids now are spending more time indoors on their screens, playing video games, scrolling social media, and consuming content online.
But technology can't take all the blame for this. It turns out that screens are really only the replacement.
Since the early 2000s, playgrounds have been getting safer. And as it turns out, kids don't like safer. they find riskier play settings to be more engaging and fun.
So it sounds like play itself has to change. But how can we give kids the risk they want to get them playing without putting them in harm's way?
According to the Canadian Pediatric Society, this starts by distinguishing hazards from risks. Hazards are extreme dangers that adults can prevent, but that young kids aren't easily able to control. Examples of this are broken playground equipment, fast-moving traffic, and even accidents on bicycles. It's why we want kids to wear their helmets and look both ways before crossing.
Minimizing these hazards has been shown to decrease the risk of serious injury.
While more controllable risks, like climbing up high on play structures or running fast, are all great ways for kids to learn their limits and explore, which should be encouraged, because ultimately these risks encourage kids to become more resilient and independent, and prepare them for the rest of their lives.
Already we're seeing changes across Canada that give us hope for a future with less screen time and more playtime.
Some examples of this are Lord Selkirk School in Winnipeg, the Glenora Child Care Society in Edmonton, and the Terra Nova Play Area in Burnaby. They all installed new equipment, designed to increase the risk of play. Lo and behold, the kids started using these playgrounds more.
The truth is, there isn't one simple fix that will get kids playing outside more.
And by reducing this question down to simple answers like danger, technology, and crime, it overlooks an important piece of this conversation.
When play is fun and kids are empowered, there's a good chance that they'll choose to go play outside instead of inside behind screens.
We have much more ahead tonight, including a string of infrastructure failures over recent months and how that is prompting discussions now on how to keep infrastructure in this country up to date. More on that next. Stay with us. Well, aging infrastructure, it's probably not the most popular issue if you're a politician, but ignoring it can lead to big trouble. Just look at the broken water mains in Calgary in June and in Montreal just this past Friday. So this week, some provincial and federal authorities are meeting to discuss ways to keep infrastructure up to date. Rafi Boudjikanian reports.
This broken water main was due for an inspection in just a few months, Montreal says. Now, city crews will have to sift for answers in its wreck instead.
I think our actions in the past few years have been showing that climate change or, replacing pipes is not something we just decided to say, we'll see. Knowing how unpopular it is to open the street and change pipes because it's not sexy. You don't win votes with that.
But some say the allure of the aqueducts is on its way.
We need to invest in infrastructure. Infrastructure is going to be sexy. You heard it here first.
The demand will only rise as more things break down across Canada, says this expert, like Union Station flooding last month. She says relatively short-term mandates for elected officials should not get in the way of work that needs to get done.
There's no quick fix to this kind of thing, as we suggested. So this infrastructure that I'm standing in is decades old, and across the country, it's increasingly decades old, much longer than any political cycle.
At this meeting of Ontario's municipalities, the message from this province, at least, is it is paying its share.
We're building Highway 413 and the Bradford bypass. Shovels are in the ground.
But the cities say that won't do.
Our members are really keen to sit down with the province and have a thorough discussion about the provincial-municipal fiscal relationship. It isn't working. Municipalities are required to pay for more and more, and a good deal of what we raise in property taxes actually ends up subsidizing provincial health and social services programs.
And as municipalities across Canada say the federal government has to kick in more than $2 billion more per year in infrastructure funding, Ottawa says it's not so simple.
But I don't think Canadians would accept that the federal government would simply cut checks to municipalities with no idea of where that money is going to go.
The federal government says it wants to see more accountability on how the money it provides is to be spent. It says it's open to a discussion on long-term changes to funding infrastructure. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada's two major railways could be shut down later this week. Canadian National and Canadian Pacific Kansas City say workers will be locked out on Thursday, and the union says it is ready for a strike. Negotiation between the companies and its workers are at a standstill. The Teamsters Union accuses the companies of trying to gut safety provisions. The Labour Minister is urging both sides to work hard to prevent a full work stoppage. One American freight forwarder is already diverting some of its cargo away from Canadian ports. A shutdown could hurt Canadian businesses that rely on rail to move goods and supplies, and it would affect passenger service as well. Legendary talk TV host Phil Donahue has died. He is widely credited with revolutionizing daytime television.
Prejudiced whites do not want to recognize black.
The Phil Donahue Show countered the typical daytime programming of game shows and soap operas, building a reputation as a forum for tough questions on hot-button topics such as equal rights for women and minorities. And he was the first to incorporate audience participation in a talk show. Donahue cleared a path for other daytime hosts who followed him, including Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, and Montel Williams. Phil Donahue was 88 years old. Well, if only you could smell these images. Use your imagination, maybe. Here's a look at the Street Fest food festival that wrapped up Sunday at the Forks. The event brought together nearly 100 local vendors and thousands of hungry visitors. Stay with us. I've got your dog walking forecast next. Well, it's time for a look at our dog walking forecast now. Here's a wonderful picture of Teddy. Thank you, Frank and Nancy, for sending this one in. You can send your pictures anytime you like to talkback@cbc.ca, where I will eagerly be awaiting for your email. 19 first thing in the morning tomorrow. Southeast winds at 10. We do see winds picking up a bit by the afternoon. 29 degrees is the high I've got for us tomorrow. 27 for Wednesday. A bit of a breeze. South winds 30 gusting to 50. Could see some showers. The best chance for showers really coming our way as we head through Thursday, and then we could see some more showers coming next Monday as well, with a temperature of 26 degrees. But those highs are above seasonal for this time of the year, so that's nice if you like the heat. The first supermoon of the year that also happens to be a blue moon is lighting up the skies tonight. You'll want to look up for tonight's daily lift. Sydney, Australia was one of the first cities to catch a glimpse of the rare astronomical event. Patience paid off for those who waited despite the overcast sky. Have a look at this. Many other cities witnessed the blue moon as the Earth turned as well. Now, the supermoon is when the moon is at its closest point to us, making it appear larger than usual. The term blue moon doesn't mean the moon is blue, but rather indicates that it is the third full moon of 4 in a season. It will soon be our turn as the supermoon brightens the night sky over Canada. And we're expecting clear skies here in the Winnipeg area tonight, so it should be good viewing for that tonight if you are keeping your eyes on the skies. That is our program for this Monday evening. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.